Hey guys, welcome to Reddit Brew. You know the drill. We're back at it again with the r/entitledpeople Reddit stories. So let's just jump into it, shall we? My fiance got breast enhancement surgery, and I am no longer attracted to her. As the title says, my girlfriend and fiance of 2.5 years got breast enhancement surgery. She'd been saying she wanted to do it ever since we first began dating, and while I expressed to her that I didn't think it was necessary, I loved the way she looked before. I always said that I would support whatever decision she made, because it's her body, and she's the one who has to live in it. About a year ago, her mother passed after a long battle with cancer, in which she actually went into remission after a double mastectomy, but then the cancer eventually came back and metastasized to her pancreas. It was a horribly painful and unpleasant experience for everyone in her family. I had met my girlfriend after her mom went into remission and after the surgery, so I wasn't there with her for her first battle, which from what I've heard was very traumatic and painful in its own way. When her mother passed, she inherited a fairly large sum of money. Nothing crazy, but enough to put a down payment on a house and finally pay for the surgery she wanted. When she told me she had made the appointment to meet with a plastic surgeon, I was supportive, but again reinforced that I loved the way she looked now, and suggested that maybe her desire to do this now was connected to her grief with her mother passing. She pretty much dismissed that notion, since she said she wanted to get implants since she was in high school, before her mom ever had cancer or the mastectomy. Fair enough. Fast forward about 6 months ago to the surgery, and it goes off without a hitch. Because she was recovering for about a month or so, I didn't really see the finished product right away, and when I did, they were much bigger than I had expected. She told me that there was still swelling and that it would go down, and it would look more natural. The swelling did go down, but they never really looked natural to me. Maybe because I was just so accustomed to the way they looked before the surgery that I'm having trouble seeing them any other way. For the past few months, our love life has been okay, but it's definitely dwindled a bit. We couldn't really be intimate while she was recovering, and after she was feeling up to it, we overcompensated a bit. But it was still before I had any idea what they looked like, since she would still be in a sports bra or a baggy t-shirt that stayed on during. And I was very cautious not to grab at them or anything, since they were still tender. Eventually, she was completely recovered, and immediately I wasn't thrilled, but I lied and said that I thought they looked great. Thing is, I don't hate them or anything. The part where I started losing attraction to her has been that ever since she got the surgery, she gets a lot more attention from strangers, which, don't get me wrong, she got attention from strangers in the past too. She's a beautiful woman now and before, but ever since the surgery, she has become so much more receptive to the attention that it's just become a total turn off for me. I didn't initially bring it up because I thought maybe I was just being paranoid. And even if I wasn't, it would likely be regarded that way and dismissed either way. But eventually, I did start to make snide little remarks here and there when she would blatantly flirt back with the delivery guy or whoever. Nothing terrible, not sure he needs a tip after all, or something like that. She got annoyed, and eventually I did bring up my discomfort. And she did exactly what I assumed she would, which was accusing me of being paranoid and reading into things. Then, a couple weeks ago, I found out that while out with her girlfriends, she was convinced to enter a wet t-shirt contest. When I confronted her about it, she didn't understand why I was upset, which is just symptomatic of this entire personality change she seems to have undergone since the procedure. I tried to explain that the secrecy, her general dismissiveness of my concerns, and her enjoyment of the extra attention was hurtful. She seemed to think that because she won the wet t-shirt contest, I should just be okay with it, and that I am lucky to have her. This simply isn't the person I fell in love with. I know I might be overreacting a bit, but this entire personality shift has been jarring enough to make me lose interest. For the past 2 weeks, we've only been intimate twice, and I even had to reject her advances. I tried to be as nice as possible, but when I tell her I'm not in the mood, she gets very angry and frustrated and kind of throws mini tantrums. Also very new. She thinks she's doing me a favor by even wanting to be intimate with me, and I am now somehow ungrateful. I believe that the person I fell in love with is still in there somewhere, but I might just be kidding myself. I'm at the point where I want to suggest couples counseling, but the one time I remotely touched on the subject, she was not receptive to the idea. I don't know what else to do though. She's like a completely different person now, and I'm not sure that I like that person very much. Update. First, I want to thank everyone for their helpful and reassuring insight. After the post, I was still uncertain as what to do. I didn't want to spring anything on her, as I felt from her perspective, it might seem like my frustrations and concerns were coming out of nowhere unless she first provoked something. And I didn't want to bring up the past after so much time had already gone by because it felt petty of me to do so. I guess what I didn't realize was that I had become pretty distant and terse with her, which she asked me about. I told her flat out that I had felt that her personality had completely changed, and I was having a lot of second thoughts about the relationship. She got very upset and asked me why I'd not mentioned anything. I told her that I tried to multiple times, and she was completely dismissive of it and just accusing me of being jealous or paranoid. I asked her, when have I ever been either of those things? And she admitted that I have never been a jealous or paranoid person in the past, while she admitted that she felt her personality was still the same and that while she may not know the reason for my perception, I was still wrong. She apologized for accusing me of being jealous, but in the same breath, said I'm wrong. It was weird because it felt like it suddenly got turned on me and that it was somehow all on me. I was pretty stunned and felt like again she was being dismissive of my point of view. She said she didn't know what else to say. We agreed to put a pin in it for the night as I was kind of speechless, and talking to her felt a bit like talking to a wall anyhow. That night, she tried to initiate again and I said no and kind of snapped at her. I was quite flummoxed and said something like, "Wow, you didn't hear a fucking word I said tonight, did you?" And apparently that broke her. She became so aggressive and hostile in a way I had never experienced before. She was hysterical, screaming, thrashing, throwing the pillows and betting around wildly, knocked over a lamp that broke, and that didn't slow her down. Then she started pushing me and telling me to get the out and that she never wanted to see me again. At first I was resistant, pleading with her to calm down, but she was just getting more and more aggressive. So I just grabbed my wallet and keys and ran out to my car in my socks and boxers. I could still hear her slamming doors from inside my car, outside of her house. I just drove around all night thinking. I was shaking. I was genuinely scared. I was angry. I think I was in shock. I didn't have my phone, so I couldn't call a friend or my parents to go to their house, and I didn't want to show up in the middle of the night under these circumstances anyway. I just drove around all night and didn't sleep. I waited until around 8 a.m. to go back to the house, which was around when she would leave for work. I go inside to grab some of my things, and the entire living room is a mess. Chairs tipped over, the coffee table completely shifted out of place, a plant ripped from a pot with dirt everywhere. You can tell she tried to clean it up a little, but didn't get very far. I went to our bedroom where my phone and clothes were, and in the middle of the hallway on the way to the bedroom was a pile of all my things, including my phone, which had a smashed screen. Fortunately, it was still functioning, so I called into work and spent the next 4 to 5 hours packing up a bunch of my stuff and loading it into my car. I also called a friend of mine and drove over to his house. He said I could crash with him for a bit while I figure out what to do next. Later that day, I sent her a text saying we should talk, and she responded there was nothing to talk about, and she thinks it would be better for both of us if I find somewhere else to stay for the time being. I explained that I already had done so and was staying with my friend. She went radio silent. She didn't respond to that or any follow-up texts I sent. About a week after all of this, she sent me a text that simply said that I need to figure out a time to come pick up the rest of my things. I asked if she would be there so we could talk, and she said she had nothing to say to me, and I should get the rest of my things when she isn't there. I asked her if she was just done with us then, and she said yes. Later that week, I went and picked up the rest of my things, and sent a text saying I left my keys on the counter. She said she was getting the locks changed anyway. I've known this woman for nearly 3 years, and I've never seen her this way before. She was always communicative and rarely hostile. She might pout or be passive-aggressive, but this felt like a full-blown tantrum. She was seething like a feral animal or something. She was completely unapologetic and calculatingly cold in a way she'd never been before. A few weeks later, after moving into my own apartment, I found out that she was already seeing someone new. I don't know if she started seeing him while we were together, but it wouldn't shock me. At some point in the last year, she stopped respecting me. And when I think back, there were probably signs even before the surgery. I don't know. The whole thing feels like such a blur. I think I may have been in denial for a while. Maybe I'm just telling myself that now to feel better about it. I have not heard from her in weeks, and I have not tried to contact her on my end either. The last couple of weeks with her and after the big blow up were the worst days of my life. I've never felt so meaningless or disregarded. Update. I can't imagine many people care, but I got a lot of private requests for an update. So here it is for those who care. My ex and I are now friends. She actually finally got into therapy and has really been more like the person I thought I knew. She said she realized that she was acting out because her mom died, which I tried to discuss with her, and also there were some issues in our relationship that I was unaware of. She expressed to me that because of my personality, which is pretty even-keeled and placid, it can come off as indifferent or even judging, and for a while, even before her implants, she was feeling like I didn't find her attractive anymore, which was pretty surprising to me because I always made an effort to tell her so, but I guess my behavior didn't always convey it, even if my words did, which is on me, and is something I have discussed in therapy. Being more enthusiastic, or letting people know how much I appreciate them, and catering it to them specifically, individually. Her therapist helped her realize a lot of what she was going through, which was nice, because she essentially said that she forgave me for her reading into, essentially, the way that I am, and turning my personality into a negative, as opposed to it simply just being the way that I am, and in no way a true reflection of her or how I felt about her. I believed her, and I apologized for not making her feel as beautiful as I think she is, and generally not being a more present partner. She also apologized for her behavior after her mom died. She said she felt like she lost me before her mom died, but because we never talked about it, after her mom died, she started acting out and was feeling kind of desperate and lost control. I am so grateful for her honesty. I thought I'd been going crazy. Ultimately though, neither one of us has the desire to jump back into a relationship with the other. She had brought it up passively, as something down the road and in future, but when I kind of remained silent, she asked if that was something I was hoping for, and I had to be honest. It wasn't. I love her, but the person I fell in love with doesn't exist anymore. I can't see her the same way, and I am quite frankly not in love with the person she is now. Even with everything she's saying, her previous behavior is hard to let go of, let alone ignore entirely. She agreed with me. What a relief. We love each other, but we both feel like we need time away from each other and figuring out who we are. And now we can at least be friends. We're not best friends anymore in the way that we were, but when faced with the alternative, this is almost better because I missed her friendship more than anything. Anyway, things are positive and there's no hate or animosity. I feel terrible for what I put her through, but as my therapist reminds me, it wasn't intentional. I'm just a passive person, and at the end of the day, you are only yourself, and people have the choice to live with it or not. He's helped me a ton. Great googly moogly. I have such mixed feelings about this one. On one hand, I do feel for OP's ex because she lost her mother, and losing a loved one is always so difficult. The grieving process is different for everybody, and it's obvious that OP's ex was acting delusional because of the immense pain she was going through from losing her mother. However, it seems like OP was gaslit a lot by his girlfriend. Just going off by how the story started with him saying, "I didn't initially bring it up because I thought maybe I was being paranoid, and even if I wasn't, it would likely be regarded that way," and dismissed. Followed by, "She got annoyed, and eventually I did bring up my discomfort, and she did exactly what I assumed she would, which was accusing me of being paranoid and reading into things." Then, the story ended with OP apologizing the most and feeling like he was the one who did everything wrong, even stating, "I feel terrible for what I put her through," even though she literally destroyed his property, kicked him out with no clothes in the middle of the night, was flirting with guys right in front of him, and also started another relationship immediately after they broke up, possibly even while they were still together. She was also completely dismissive about every feeling he had, and nothing was ever her fault, and always stated that he was lucky to have her. Like, look, I do feel bad that she lost a loved one, but just because you're grieving doesn't excuse gaslighting and abusive behavior. You don't get to treat people like trash just because you're hurting. However, someone in the comments did bring up the fact that her erratic behavior could have been caused by breast plant illness, which is also a possibility that could potentially be excusable. But I digress, and in the end, both OP and his girlfriend were not the best communicators. I'm glad that they were both able to get the help that they needed though, and that they reconciled as friends. But anyway, that is all from me today. I hope you enjoyed this Entitled People relationship story. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I truly appreciate when you do, and I will see you in the next Reddit story. Bye!